To rapture or not to rapture, that is the question. Hi, and welcome to the Secular Scriptures. I'm Gail, and it's been 3 days since my last rapture. As you may have guessed, I was raised in the end of days bullshit, and I never went to one specific church. I hitched rides with friends to their churches. So I got sort of this generic, hazy smear of Christian doctrine as I was growing up, but my area is predominantly Protestant, and it skews towards evangelical. I live smack dab in the burned-over region of the Second Great Awakening, which is a fascinating area to grow up in if you love studying religiosity. I attended a First Baptist, Wesleyan, and I think potentially an Assembly of God church fairly regularly. I vaguely remember going to some Pentecostal church sometimes, and my grandmother's church was Pilgrim Congregational. I also studied with Miss Mary from the Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't recall much of the Wesleyan sermons aside from that pastor never finished talking about one thing before moving on to the next, and it seemed like I was the only one who was frustrated by this. But the others were big on the rapture, the end times, and Armageddon. Dad bought me the first Left Behind book when I was a teenager, but it was so poorly written that it was unreadable. I don't know what he was hoping to gain from that. Maybe he didn't know what it was about. Maybe he was just trying to scare me with some awful fiction. The general flavor of the region and the time was one of the end times, impending doom, and bad omens. And as a kid, I'd have nightmares about this future chaos. I never once imagined myself being among those taken up, like some divine alien abduction scene. I always envisioned this future event from the ground level. Every time a date of doom would come around, I'd be filled with anxiety, even after I stopped believing. Since these things were semi-annual events, it was a lot of anxiety. And these days, I'm filled with hope for the glorious fictional future without all these nutty Christians standing in the way of things like climate initiatives, equal rights, and economic stability. That's a whole other fantasy now, isn't it? So, what is the rapture? Why do only some Christian denominations preach about it? Is it in the Bible, or is it a later Bible fanfic? All the raptures that weren't, and lastly, we will talk about why this story is harmful. So, what the heck is the rapture? This is paraphrased from the ever-handy Wikipedia. The rapture is an eschatological position held by American evangelicals consisting of an end-time event when all dead true Christian believers will be resurrected and join with true Christian believers who are still alive, and together will rise up into the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. The rapture precedes the 7-year tribulation, which culminates in Christ's second coming and will be followed by a 1,000-year messianic kingdom. This lovely little horror story is extracted and distilled from 1 Thessalonians and the book of Revelation. Who believes this? The second coming mythos is usually part of dispensational premillennialism, where God interacts with people differently in different eras, which says that certain prophecies in the Bible remain unfulfilled and will occur in the future. This theory grew out of translations of the Bible by John Nelson Darby in 1833. He was from Ireland. Denominations that embrace this tale are the American Fundamentalist Baptists, Bible churches, Brethren churches, few Methodist denominations, Pentecostals, non-denominational evangelicals, and various other evangelical groups. Unfortunately, this is no longer limited to the United States, and many foreign denominations have adopted it as U.S. missionaries have carried it around the world. Is it biblical or biblical fan fiction? The concept of the rapture is not found in historic Christianity, and it is a relatively recent doctrine originating from the 1830s. Prior to this, the story of the Last Judgment predominated, as we see in the art and literature before this time. So, is it biblical? Let's take a look at the passage itself from the New International Version. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13 through 18. And I'm not going to read this like your pastor will, I'm just going to read it. Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. According to the Lord's word, we tell you that we are still alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, who will certainly not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven, and with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. I mean, valid. Yes, this is the NIV, which is an evangelical translation, but you can toddle on over to Bible Gateway and flip through the various translations, and they're all about the same. On a plain reading of the text, the concept of the rapture is, in fact, biblical. Different denominations disagree about the exact time of the rapture and whether Christ's return will happen in one event or two. Pre-tribulationism is the most widely held view among Christians who believe in the rapture today. Other views include mid-tribulation, pre-wrath, and post-tribulation rapture. Now that you have a brief understanding of the theology, we will move on to a list of the raptures that didn't happen. We have the Great Disappointment of 1843 to 1844, the Watchtower Society from 1878, 1881, 1914, 1918, 1925, and 1975, and now they just say we're living in the end times. Herbert W. Armstrong, 1972, and again in 75. 1988, that was a fun one. 1997, Heaven's Gate. Y2K Panic of 1999. Yes, this was also religious, not just a nightmare for my IT friends. Harold Camping in 2011 and 2015. COVID 2020, God's Wrath. World Truth Ministries predicted two, April 25th, 2020 and January 2nd, January 21st, 2025. Apologies, my comma's in the wrong place there. Gene Dixon's 2020 prediction, and most recently the South African pastor Joshua Mhakala, I hope I said that right, September 23rd or 24th, 2025, aka the BOGO Rapture. The next one is scheduled for November 8th, 2025, predicted by some random person on the internet. Buy your tickets here to see Jesus. Catch that train to heaven. This time it's really real, trust me. And if you believe that, you should join Lucy Van Pelt's football team. Why the rapture sucks. First, it scares the crap out of kids. I don't mean this in a good and beneficial way, even though I'm smiling while I say it. I mean this in a CPTSD, lifelong trauma, anxiety, nightmares, and crying fits, this is scary shit kind of way. For Christians who believe it, they think, good, they'll be too scared to not believe. But realistically, this line of thinking does more to drive people away from the religion than to retain them. Even if you do believe this, there are age-appropriate ways of presenting scary stories to children that don't psychologically damage them for life. Sunday schools draw pretty pictures of rainbows and a happy-faced boat for Noah's Ark. They are not showing the equivalent of Nightmare on Elm Street films to 5-year-olds. Have some common sense here, folks. At 6, I was planning out how to survive alone in the world without my parents. That's some screwed up shit, guys. Next is the financial damage this whale of a tale does to adults. Every single time this rapture comes along, we end up with the true believers selling their houses, quitting their jobs, giving all their money away, etc., because these charlatan pastors are screaming about the end of the world. We are way past fool me twice territory here and heading towards candy companies planning out the next rapture holiday treats. But sure, I'll take a small monthly fee as a rapture retainer to come take care of your pets after you get vacuumed up into heaven. I'm joking. I wouldn't actually steal money from people, and that's what that would be doing. Please, I beg you, if you believe in this, do not wreck your finances. Even if you believe with every fiber of your being that this is going to happen and you are going to heaven on a certain day, just leave your finances as they are. They will not be your problem then. And if it doesn't happen, you won't have made any disastrous decisions that you can't take back. Lastly, the absolute emotional devastation that this does to believers when it never happens is not even a little bit funny. Now, I love to joke about serious things, okay? I can smile through anything. And I cope with trauma by joking. Our evangelical friends and family are probably still hurting today. And they'll hurt the next time that this bullshit rolls around. And I don't know what the right thing here is to say. What I do know is that people have died from this belief. My friend Margaret had her sneakers and her jean skirt all ready to catch that comet in '97, and we were worried she was going to kill herself. Thankfully, she didn't exit stage life, but she was never the same afterwards. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Secular Scriptures. I don't know if enjoy is the right word here, but if you found this helpful or informative or amusing in some way, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And remember, kids, no selling the farm just because some wackadoodle pastor in east of who knows where says the world is ending next week. They're probably wrong and won't be offering any refunds, just excuses.